So, we were talking about when you purposely try to impress upon the subconscious mind, your own conscious mind will get in the way of that. It will filter out the very thing that you're trying to put in. And it's because you're consciously aware of it. It's not slipping in under the radar and going right in, which is why we need to use a little bit of force. The male force, the will. Now, I'm not saying you need to mind rape yourself or anything, but you do need to make a lasting impression. It's very much like dating. And what's the first thing you do for your date? Well, you got to get cleaned up and get ready for the date. If you show up without having showered, brushed your teeth, put on deodorant, put on decent clothes, you're probably not going to get much further than that. The law of polarity will kick in and your date will be repulsed by you. Probably. And so in Magick, we start getting our masculine force, our will, ready by making our preparations for the ritual. And all the while having that anticipation for the ritual itself. As if you were anticipating going on that date to get you fired up about it. And then when you do the ritual, it needs to be very outgoing and dynamic, to the point of being grandiose and flamboyant. Like the peacock who shows off its feathers to impress its mate. And anyone performing any kind of magic will certainly agree that if you do things half-ass, it's not going to happen. Well, this is why. And confidence is a must also. But you need to watch for and avoid becoming mechanical and robotic about it, which is easy to do when it comes to ritual magic. Because then you're just falling into habit. And there's no will in habits. Habits are automated processes of the subconscious. So you got to keep it fresh, you got to keep it funky, you got to keep it fun. And if you're not fun, your date is going to get bored with you. Just going through the motions is an easy trap to fall into. But better to do that than to stand your date up. And this is why I say you should do your daily practices whether you feel like it or not. To turn it into a habit. And the habits are the automated processes of the subconscious, as I said. Those are the results of the impressions being made upon it. And they're very hard to break. Without the will. But you can't let it turn into habit alone, because that won't do you any good, other than to actually get you off your ass to actually do it. That would be like showing up for your date and then having her go off and dance by herself. So you got to find ways to keep it fun, fresh, and dynamic. And then you can begin dancing with your partner. And this is why there's so much drama in ritual magic. But you really got to put everything you got into it. It's exhausting. So this is how we get past that conscious block initially performing the ritual. But there's also a conscious block after the ritual if you continue to keep thinking about it. Lust for results is the surest way to keep it from happening. Now I'm sure everyone's had the experience where you're trying to remember something. And it's on the tip of your tongue, but you just can't quite get it. And the more you think about it and try to remember, the more you forget. Until finally you just give up. And then pops right in your head and you remember. But only after you've given up and stopped thinking about it. Or you got those who are looking for that special someone, and every time they go out they can't help thinking about it, and it never happens. And then finally, when they're out at the grocery store or something like that, and they're not really thinking about it, bam, they run into them. Just out of the blue. Well, it's not out of the blue. They finally got the conscious mind out of the way to allow it to happen. And there are many, many people who needlessly prolong and torture themselves for years doing this. And they put a lot of energy into it. But how are they going to pass along their will and command to the source for it to be fulfilled if they're still holding on to it? You got to let it go and just allow it to happen by getting the conscious mind out of the way. Now, there is a lot of misconception about the subconscious. Everybody's heard of it, but very few understand it. And it amazes me how many people I talk to that seem to think it's really not a part of them, or that they can somehow consciously control it. Which, if you're not astral traveling and controlling your dreams continuously at will, you're not controlling your subconscious. It's controlling you. The subconscious is not unlike the operating system on a computer. It runs all the background tasks, all the things that you're not aware of and don't have to think about, such as your heartbeat, digestion of your food, breaking down of enzymes, etc. All of the things that you don't have to think about and are probably not even consciously aware of at any given time, including your habits. Now, still not getting into astrology just yet, but I told you how the symbol for Gemini is the twin pillars. Well, what body parts do you think Gemini rules? Well, it rules the arms and the hands. Makes sense. There's, you have a pair of them. It also rules the lungs. That makes sense too. There's a pair of lungs. Well, the lungs are the only vital organ where you can switch control back and forth between the conscious and the subconscious mind. You can take control of your breath at any time. Of course, you can't hold it forever. And the element Gemini is associated with is mutable air. Mutable is changeable. And for those who know a little astrology already, can certainly appreciate these correspondences. So the subconscious is like the operating system, and the language it uses is a bit encrypted. It uses images and symbolism. And this is where all the visualizations and ritual tools and things of that nature come into play, to be able to communicate with the subconscious. The conscious mind, on the other hand, is like an application. It's like an app, open and running on top of the operating system. And generally, its awareness is limited to that open window that it's contained in. And it uses a different language than the operating system, which causes difficulties in cross-communication. And this is why when Bob Proctor's talking about positive affirmations, he says, you just don't say that once, you may have to say that 1,000 times a day, every day for 90 days. Well, yeah, if you do something that many times to where it becomes a habit, eventually the message is going to get through. But it's not a very effective means of communication. And this is why we use symbolism and magic and ritual, to be able to effectively communicate with the subconscious mind in a language that it already understands. It's just a lot quicker and a lot easier. Now, you remember the little stick figure that Bob Proctor was showing and explaining in his video, which I've recreated here and taken some liberty in altering a few things, such as removing the sensory factors from the conscious mind just to get them out of the way for now. And I put the conscious mind and the subconscious mind side by side to better represent the two halves of the mind in relation to the two pillars. So, we know that the conscious mind needs to use its will to impress upon the subconscious mind. But there is another component to all of this, commonly known as the collective unconscious, or group mind. Some call it source. Some call it the universe. Others call it God. And this is where all the data is stored, like a hard drive. And the subconscious has access to all the collective data that ever was at any time. All the pantheon of gods, goddesses, deities, angels, demons, all the symbolism. It knows all because it stores all. And this is why I said that your subconscious is the link to the divine. We're all on the same page now, right? We know that the conscious mind impresses upon the subconscious, and the subconscious will decode and process that and has access to all the data that it needs to fulfill the request. And you also remember when I said you need to treat your magic as if you would a date or a potential mate. Now I want to show you something, and when I do, pay attention to where the characters are looking. Okay? Here it is. Oh yeah, feel them goosebumps now. This is starting to get fun, isn't it? And we're just getting started. See you next time.